Well, I want to make sure that if I get this answer wrong, I can't be held for perjury. I was packing corn. I was a corn packer. And I packed it, I put it in the trucks, and I iced it down to keep it at 38 degrees so it wouldn't go through the process where the sugar turns into starch. And we got that corn out that day. I was a corn packer. And I know that term is offensive to some people because corn packer is a derogatory term for a gay Iowan. And I hope I didn't offend anybody.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Oh, I definitely will reclaim my time at this point. Dr. Swain, because of your background, your studies, your accomplishments, which are incredible, you have an idea about legal principles, and we're up here and we espouse them all the time. Most of us here are lawyers on this particular committee, and you'll hear the rule of law, nation of laws, not man. There's another one, it's equal justice under the law, and I think we're familiar with that. What you're going to be hearing from my colleagues on the other side, some of which are from the same state of Texas, where I was born and raised, even the same city, is that the only solution for anyone here that doesn't have legal status, that is illegal, is deportation. Do you agree with that? That one size should fit all? One punishment for all, and that is, you're not here legally, you shall be deported.
It's my understanding that the cases are heard individually by an administrative judge, and that judge has the discretion to look at particular circumstances. I know that there are people that accidentally fall into illegal status, and I think those...
Oh, no. We're talking about a foreign worker that came here in violation of our laws to pick our fruits and vegetables. It wasn't a mistake.
I think that if a person came here deliberately breaking the law, and they get caught, they should expect to bear the punishment. And if the judge says that punishment is deportation...
No. The judge really doesn't... I'm just going to tell you from my experience, because I come from a city that has many immigration cases. I've been told that if you came here illegally, misrepresenting your status, came here in any way, you are barred from remaining in this country. So let's just assume I'm right and that a judge has no discretion. Do you believe that that judge should have any other discretion other than deportation?
I think that we should enforce the laws on the book, or we should change them if we're uncomfortable with enforcing them.
I agree with you. And that's what we're trying to do with comprehensive immigration reform. That would stay true to our principle of equal justice under the law. Sometimes the laws don't work anymore. They're not applicable. They don't serve a social or human purpose. That's what we're trying to address. But if you are of like mind with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, then let me ask you this.
Could I say something?
Let me just finish, because Mr. Colbert and Mr. King used most of my time.
I'm sorry.
If you have a death penalty, which what I call the death penalty, and that's the ultimate punishment, and that is you're here illegally, you get deported. But there's two parties to this action. Why don't we close the business that is employing these individuals? We slap them on the wrist, we give them a small fine, place them on some sort of probation, but truly, if you treat the employee in the absolute, why wouldn't you do that to the employer? Why do we have a range of punishment for the employer, but we don't have a range of punishment for the employee? Because you telling me who is being exploited and who's being victimized in a lot of instances in this country, which you seem to agree on that principle, that wages are somehow depressed, working conditions can be deplorable, and until they improve, we're not going to have a domestic labor market.
The gentleman's time has expired.
If it were up to me, I would throw the employers in jail. I think that they do get slapped on the wrist and that they're part of the problem and that has to be addressed. And the problem that I have with the way that Democrats seem to be defining comprehensive immigration reform is that it seems to be, it doesn't include what I would consider comprehensive, that you would look at all the different aspects of what feeds illegal immigration. It just seems to be about amnesty. To me, comprehensive means you
the gentleman's time has expired, and I would turn now to...
Madam Chair, and yes. I appreciate it, but that word of amnesty, especially coming from Dr. Swain, she knows better than using the word amnesty, but she is clear that she wants to put the employers in jail, and I appreciate
The gentleman's time has expired. We turn now to the gentlelady from California, Congresswoman Chu.
Well, Ranking Member Smith questioned Mr. Colbert's expertise as a witness. However, I would like to point out that in the past, Republicans have had witnesses such as Loretta Swit, who played Hot Lips Houlihan from MASH, to testify on Crush videos, and that Republicans invited Clint Eastwood to testify before Congress about ADA lawsuits, and Republicans also invited Elmo to talk about music education at the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Health, and Human Services. Well, on another note, Mr. Colbert, thank you for attending this hearing and highlighting the plight of farm workers. The situation is indeed dire, and I know from my state of California, I heard about the case of Mr. Asuncion Valdivia, who came from Mexico for a better life and took a job that few Americans wanted to do. Every day in the hot summer months, he picked grapes for 10 hours straight in 105-degree temperatures, and then one day he fell ill. He fell ill and could not stand up, and G. Maria Vineyards, rather than calling the ambulance, told his son to drive Mr. Asuncion home. On the way home, Mr. Asuncion died of a heat stroke, and his son had to watch his father die of a preventable heat stroke at the age of 53. And in fact, this is only one of many stories like this. There have been 23 reported deaths since 2001, and those are only the reported deaths. But this was the last straw, and that's why I worked with Mr. Rodriguez and UFW in carrying legislation to require water, shade, and rest periods on every farm so that outdoor workers could be protected. So I'm wondering, Mr. Colbert, did any of the farm workers that you picked with talk about working conditions having to do with heat, with water, shade, rest periods, any of those kinds of things?
No, we didn't talk. Thank you very much for asking me the question, first of all. But no, we didn't really talk that much. I tried to engage them in conversation, but I don't speak Spanish very well. And they seemed very busy with the beans and with the corn. And I tried to get them to sing field songs and that sort of thing, and they didn't seem to have any. And so I never really found out about what their working conditions were like in terms of what medical was applied, what medical services were available to them, or what health care was available to them, or what kind of breaks were available to them. They seemed to be working the entire time.
Did you experience any of these issues pertaining to heat?
It was very hot. That's what's a yes. It was hotter than I like to be.
And considering the conditions, why would any American worker want to work on jobs like this?
I don't know if Americans would or would not want to work on jobs like this. I believe that Americans are tough. I agree with the congressman that Americans are tough and they do tough jobs. It's not a job I want to do, and not a lot of people took Mr. Rodriguez up on his offer. And it seems from the statistics that my researchers found that there is a lack of labor in parts of the United States, and that seems to say that Americans don't want to take these jobs, but I don't want to say definitively that they won't.
Mr. Colbert, you could work on so many issues. Why are you interested in this issue?
I like talking about people who don't have any power. And this seems like one of the least powerful people in the United States are migrant workers who come and do our work, but don't have any rights as a result. And yet we still invite them to come here, and at the same time ask them to leave. And that's an interesting contradiction to me. And you know, whatsoever you do for the least of my brothers, and these seem like the least of our brothers right now. A lot of people are least brothers right now because the economy is so hard, and I don't want to take anyone's hardship away from them or diminish anything like that. But migrant workers suffer and have no rights.
Well, thank you for that. And in response to Ms. Swain, I would say that according to the most recent data, in 2007, 8.8 million Californians worked for minimum wage, many of them in undesirable jobs. According to your analysis, if we only paid Americans more, they would be willing to work in the fields, but 8.8 million are already taking that lower paycheck. We still don't see Americans flocking to work in the fields, and that, I think, says a lot. And with that, I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back. I will now recognize myself for 5 minutes. And I think this has been a very helpful hearing. You know, as I have listened to my colleagues, I've heard really a plea that we upgrade the conditions of migrant farm workers. And I've been thinking, as I was listening to Ms. Sanchez, that I might introduce a bill that provides for the rights of farm workers to organize as a labor union under national law. We have that in California.